What is up, all you awesome video gamers out there in the land of the internet? Thank you so much for joining us once again for the best video game podcast out there in the known and unknown multiverse, and also the dark multiverse. It's a DC throwback for you. My name is Berto. I am 1/3 of the Split Screen Cynics, the coolest trio to talk about video games. Come join us on the virtual couch once again, as we always do. To my right, one of the coolest dudes I know, Garrett Dalton. Garrett, how are you, dude?
I've been better. I just slugged a bunch of Bud Light Lime, so that's certainly helping me out. As you can tell on Twitch, my internet's screwed up. I can literally see my face like jiggling around. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. We'll see how this goes. I basically spent all day on tech support with my ISP. Basically told me they were screwing me over by mistake, and they're working to fix it, so hopefully it gets better.
Well, at least they told you they were screwing you over. They could have just done it without telling you.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically something's wrong on their end, and the people I had talked with previously were like, no, get a new modem, which I got a new modem, a new router, didn't fix it. And then the lady I talked to today was like, I'm going to cut you off right now. I know exactly what's wrong. Like, it's some sort of node thing with them. And she's like, I'm gonna escalate this thing. It'll probably be fixed in 48 hours. And I was like, oh, that would have been cool, like, $300 ago.
And also 48 hours ago.
Yes, but hopefully I will be better. I actually already feel better with some beer and some juicy topics coming up on Split Screen. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing myself. That sounded weird.
Sorry, I brought everyone's mood down real hard right before this.
As long as you don't do that on camera, because we will get banned for that.
That is true.
No, I'm doing okay. Just finished my 1 week of break of Counter-Strike, and now it's back to the grind, even though the next season doesn't start till September. So we have a lot of time, but my teammates are diligent, so subsequently I have to be diligent. But yeah, just doing my thing, trying to make it in this world as just a 30-year-old who still plays Counter-Strike.
Hey, that's the dream right there, Tim. You're living the dream.
It's the dream. It's better to be 30 playing Counter-Strike than 20.
Sometimes you should just let your dreams be dreams.
Fair.
Like I said, I've just introduced the rest of the Cynics.
Oh wait, Berto, wait. How you doing? Sorry, nobody asked you.
Garrett, thank you for asking.
You got some big stuff.
I am doing on the one hand fantastic because of some big stuff going on the other hand not so fantastic because of the same big stuff. My wife and I are going to be moving into the place that we closed on last Friday.
Congratulations.
This coming Friday. So we're moving into our first official home that we own. We're not throwing our money out the window and rent any longer. We own it. But then the downside to that is then you have to move again, and we're moving this Friday. So right now our apartment is just one giant maze of boxes that our cats are trying to navigate. And it's not fun because I get home and I'm like, yay, we got to pack. We got 3 days to pack. But once the craziness subsides from all the packing, it's going to be nice because I'm going back to Westchester. I'm going to be so happy to be there again. I loved it. I missed it. I want to go back.
It will be nice, and we might have more opportunities for live podcasts versus.
Ooh, I was just telling Tim, I'm like, we're gonna, the three of us might actually be in a room together more often.
We won't have to deal with shitty internet. Well, I guess we still would for streaming, but
the three of us we'll be together. That's the important thing.
Yeah. But sorry, I interrupted you finishing the intro.
I was saying, we're your Split Screen Cynics. The three of us are three totally awesome dudes who love talking about video games. Thank you for joining us once again. If you're listening to us, that means you've found us through the usual channels. You know where to find us. Please continue looking for us and finding us and listening to us. Give us all the 5-star and 4 stars and all the maximum star ratings. Leave us a comment. We'd love you. Thank you for joining us. Come onto our couch as we talk and play video games and argue with us, because we're pretty sure you're not going to agree with everything we say. But that's life.
It's okay to be wrong.
Tim, I love you.
Also, sorry, I got to plug youthegamers.com. Check us out there too.
I was gonna do that.
Oh, I didn't know if you were. I'm sorry.
I was going, but yes, like Gary said, we are also hosted on the You the Gamers website, so definitely check us out there because those awesome dudes are very gracious to have us as one of their contributors, and they feature us very prominently. So definitely go check them out, give us a listen there, and listen to all their stuff because they put out some great content as well. Love those guys. And with that intro out of the way, we're gonna just jump right on in to the show with our first segment, which is our What You Playing segment. So, Garrett, what you playing?
Ooh, a lot of repeats this week, which I'll kind of buzz through. Days Gone, more of that. You know the story of that. I did play some Monster Hunter World with Tim, also with Sarah_LOL, aka Andrew, and also with, I think Haxa was playing with us too, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I was confused as to who it was. But that was cool jumping back into that game. Still kind of grinding on that a little bit. Mario Maker 2, I've been streaming a lot. That game is a ton of fun to stream. I did actually dive into the building mode today. Not really to make a good level, but to make like a cool Instagram post.
That was a dope Instagram post.
Yeah, it's actually, it's funny. The power of that to make videos is pretty cool because you just can record and build your own video. Make it say whatever you want or whatever. Until I'm sure Nintendo's gonna take it down at one point. We'll see. But yeah, the one new game I've been playing, it's actually not a new game. It's actually an old game. It's like one of the original OG indie games that kind of started the new revolution of indie games. I jumped into Fez. Which
such a good game.
I've actually never played before. Part of that was I think I watched that indie game, the movie, with my wife, and she said the guy looked cute in Fez, so I was like, "Oh, I'll play it with you one day," and then we just didn't. So it's kind of funny to go back because so far I'm loving the game. It still feels pretty unique gameplay wise. Just the thoughtfulness of the puzzle solving, of changing the perspective in 2D to 3D is pretty cool. Dynamite soundtrack. I've actually listened to the soundtrack before, but not recently, so that gave me a little bit of nostalgia. One of the best soundtracks out there, but it gave me these kind of warm, rosy, fuzzy feelings just because it's back to that indie game magic when indie games were just kind of like figuring themselves out and starting to become successful without this crazy, like nowadays there's indie games all over the place and they sell millions every time. So it was cool to see some of that magic again. And the game, just the soundtrack has that sort of magical floaty feel. So definitely digging that. I don't know how long the game is, but I think I played about 2 hours of it. So I'm not crazy far into it, or maybe I am. I don't know the length of it. Yeah, I think that's about it for what I've been playing. But Berto, what you playing?
I've also been going back and playing some old stuff. The main thing I've been playing a lot of is The Messenger. I never actually finished The Messenger the first time around. I put in 11 or 12 hours in the first time. And I got maybe 80% of the way through, but I feel like at that point I had seen enough of the game and I kind of set it down to play something else. And I never really got back to it. And this past weekend, when, all of New York was freaking melting, we were upstate. My wife and I were upstate with some family. It was like a family weekend. And on the drive back, I was like, you know what I want to do? I'm going to play some Messenger since I'm not driving back. And I actually finished The Messenger the first time around. And then I got the DLC, the free DLC, which dropped, I think it was earlier this year or maybe last month. Let me just double check when that came out.
That's the Picnic Panic, right?
Yeah. And
I think we saw that at PAX East.
Yeah. When we saw it, when we were at PAX East, they had Sabotage Studio in Devolver. They had a little booth set up with a tiki bar theme. And it was for Picnic Panic. And I think it was just due to release. And it's a free DLC, so as long as if you have the Messenger and as long as you beat the game, and then you have access to Picnic Panic, you just go into you go into Steam or the PS Store or Nintendo, wherever you have it, and it's a free download. So I started playing that, and it's just more of the same. It's more the Messenger, but the Messenger is such a fun game, tight platformer. Just love the throwback of the Messenger. So, it's just kind of like playing your little comfort food in video game format. And I'd say that's about like 90% of what I was playing. And also jumping into Mario Maker 2. Started playing some of that because I bought that along with my friend Pedro, which I haven't started yet, but I want to play that. Started on that adventure mode in Mario Maker. I haven't actually started making any levels yet because I feel that once I start making levels, they will all look terrible. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, I can make the best levels. And then I feel once the level is made, it's going to be so elementary and basic that I'm going to want to like not play it anymore. So that's why I'm avoiding the level maker.
It's not, I don't know. I don't know if I have the patience for it. Even making that silly little like basically title level for Instagram was like a bit of a challenge for me. I kept like doing things and being like, this is working at all.
Yeah, like I have no idea how these people do it. I've played some of these levels and I'm like, I mean, aside from being incredibly brutal, I'm like, this is like, you really have to put some thought into this. And then in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I have no fucking patience for something like this, where I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool here. You put an on-off switch, and then when you hit the on switch, this thing drops down, that you then have to jump onto another ledge that hits an off switch so that you land on the switch and not spikes. I'm like, that's too much for me.
Yeah, especially the hardest part I had was just like, every time you want to put like a jump, you basically have to like run, do the jump, and be like, okay, I think like,
yeah, it's like,
do I want it full range? Do I want it mid? Like,
it's like how like, okay, so then here's the like at this point is where Mario will die. So what's the optimal, I guess what's the optimal landing trajectory so that it's kind of challenging without being like too much of a dick to the player. Or you can be a dick to the player and just make him think he can make the jump and they just never make it. Although, no, but with Mario Maker, the level has to be like, you have to be able to clear the level before it gets accepted, right?
Yeah. So you have to. A lot of people do. I think it's called dev doors actually, where like they'll put like secret blocks that like have the exit. So that's like a thing when you're playing, you have to like watch out for, because people will like make a level that's impossible but have like a secret exit somewhere. So.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to find these levels because I feel like I want to play them and be like, ha, yeah. I beat your level.
I actually on stream set a world record, and it's because I like figured out like a weird trick where you could just skip the whole level basically.
Hell fucking yeah, that's right. Split screen Synics up in this piece. Breaking records.
I don't know if I still have it, but the clip's on my Twitch channel.
Whatever. The record was yours for however long it was.
Respect.
That is all I've been playing. Tim, how about you? Looks like you've been doing some video game playing yourself.
Yeah, Tim, what you playing, bro?
So I have been playing. The first game I've been playing is going to be our next game club game. It is called Amid Evil. That's AMID space evil. I've had this conversation with so many people where everyone's like, medieval? I'm like, no.
No, not medieval.
I feel like amongst evil would have been an easier.
Probably.
Amidst
Maybe that's
evil.
the pun they were going for. I don't know. But yeah, it's $20 on Steam. It is a throwback to Quake, which is interesting because on a few games ago, or a few episodes ago, I mentioned it would be cool if they made a new Quake game. And this is definitely a spiritual successor to Quake. I will withhold my comments on the game until next episode, but check it out if you want to play along with us. It exists.
Yeah. I actually played at PAX East. I played a game called Dusk, I think it was called.
Yes.
Which I feel like there's like a bit of a resurgence of these kind of like Doom, Quake, 3D kind of polygony shooters recently, which is
it's the same company.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Interesting. Okay,
is it like a?
I got it in a bundle with Dusk, so I haven't played Dusk yet.
Dope.
Oh, weird. Is it? Do you know which one came out first, or?
Dusk came out first.
Oh, weird. So since then they've put out another. That's pretty dope. Okay, cool.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, from the video it kind of looked like Hexen-ish to me. Like it looked like the weapons were a little more kind of spicy than.
The weapons are like magical, so it does have a kind of a Hexen vibe to it. But the way the game plays is very, very similar to Quake. But I mean,
88% on Metacritic.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's
Dusk. I mean,
irrelevant.
Dusk, not
Okay, relevant to my personal opinion, which I will not share. But other than that, I finished Ritual of the Night. It was really easy because Tom grinded everything out, and we were too powerful. So it was not the intended experience. But I will say, if like aside from that, it was great. Like uh, I feel like the ending for a Castlevania game felt a little bit rushed. I don't know if you guys know how many Castlevania games in the Metroidvania style that you guys have played, but generally there's like, without spoiling too much, there's like a fake ending, and you have to fulfill some criteria to unlock like.
And then there's like double the game usually.
Right.
Yeah. You mean like when you have to get like Dracula's finger and his eyeball and his like penis and his like hair, and then it's like, oh look, it's an upside down castle.
Hold on, I don't remember that part of the game.
Well, I figured I'd throw an obscure body part in there to see who's a real fan and be like, hey, you don't get a Dracula penis.
Hey, Dracula's penis fell off in AD 24.
I'd play that game. But
now we're talking about Rasputin's penis.
Huge. Just saying.
It's in a museum allegedly, but the content after that was a little underwhelming. I was like, oh, that's it. But other than that, really cool game, really fun. Definitely a classic Metroidvania in all aspects. So would recommend playing it for sure. I've been playing some Monster Hunter World with Garrett and El Sayer. Is that his name?
I just call him Sarah. It's Andrew. I don't know. At least
El Sayer. No, it's Andrew.
I thought it was LOL Sarah. That's what I call him.
Lol Sayer.
I don't know.
LOL Sayer.
El Sayer.
Thanks for helping out.
That is me. I am El Sayer.
But having a good time with it. It is better than Dauntless, that is for sure. I've been, it's nice having a game like that where you can just kind of like grind away at it and like it's a good balance of RPG and like still like mechanical skill you have to kind of develop. And it's it's definitely an improvement upon the last Monster Hunter game that I played, which was Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate.
Now, important question: are you guys, because you guys have played, this isn't your first go around with Monster Hunter World? Are you using the same weapon this playthrough as the previous playthrough?
No, I used a Kinsect Glaive in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and I'm using the hammer in Monster Hunter World.
Dope.
I also have kind of switched up, if you will.
Respect to the Kinsect Glaive.
I miss it, but
that's fair. I miss Gunlance. I want to play Gunlance again so bad. So I've actually played through Monster Hunter World, sort of. I haven't done like the newer content. But I think I started with Hammer, and then I was doing Gunlance. But in the new playthrough on PC, I'm doing Dual Blades right now.
Okay.
Which is a different than my normal kind of thing. So I am liking it. It's just it's weird to hit that many times. I'm used to like precisely smacking the monster like twice and then rolling. This is like hit him 80 times and then, cartwheel away. So I'm liking the change of pace, definitely.
Sorry about that. I lost my composure.
Chris is killing it in chat.
I was about to say, Chris just like posted something in chat and just like made me lose my composure completely about Rasputin.
Well, next episode we'll do Rasputin's wiener.
Yeah,
segment 3.
You got to get lower. You got to get lower, Garrett.
I love that game. And the other game that I started playing was Bully, the PS2 game. I played this before, but I never finished it. And in my opinion, it's up there. I'm not a big Rockstar fan, but it's up there for their best game.
Oh, absolutely.
It's definitely got, like, it gets the vibe of, the GTA, but it puts it into a much more, I think, comfortable setting for that type of gameplay. I guess it doesn't have, like, the ultimate levels of chaos where that can happen in GTA, but it's way more fun in the setting of like you're at a a private school where just mayhem is going on and you have to figure out how you're gonna get through it. It's a little, it shows its age a bit. It's a little just like, oh, here, do this quest, do that. But it's great. I definitely enjoy the concept of it more than like the GTA series.
There's something endearing about taking the GTA boilerplate formula and making it about, just a kid in a prep school. Like there's and it makes, like, I think that, and I actually want to ask you, Tim, do you think if they were to make a sequel, which who knows if they would, but do you think they could keep it, like, would they do a Bully 2 online? Like, do you think they could make it kind of work today, or do you think there's not a chance at all?
I mean, you never know. Like, they've clearly got this formula and they've shifted around into the spots that they find fit. I'm sure that there could be some weird, Bully online where you have like different cliques. Because people,
you could have cliques and you could have like snowball fights and you could have like, you could take the formula and play with it.
But then how far before people are like, this is actual cyberbullying?
Yeah, well, it's tough because, like, and Chris just said in chat, like, they have a new update out in GTA 5. That thing just prints money. Like, Red Dead Online 2, or Red Dead Online, I guess it's just called, is not doing so well. So I do wonder if Rockstar's just gonna be like, we should just make GTAs. Because I would love to see a Bully 2, even if it's just like a single player.
I mean, yeah, like you and everyone else everyone who's played Bully, they've been dying for a Bully 2. I would love to see Bully 2. That was such a fun game.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying that, and hopefully this time I'll actually finish it. But
well, definitely keep us posted and let us know if you actually finish.
Start streaming it, bro.
Yeah, seriously.
I've got some stream plans, but I don't think they involve Bully.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
All right. He's like, no, Bully is just for me. When I finish it, I want to be the only one who sees the ending.
I want to see the craziness that me and Tim have streamed him live making a map of Grimrock 2 while we're playing through it before. So the map cam. That was actually amazing. All right, we'll come hang out once in a while, Tim. We'll make it happen. Yeah. Except my internet's garbage. So
let's save some of those ideas for Extra Life. We got to come up with some fun stuff for us to stream for Extra Life. And some fun challenges.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be a crazy stream. I mean, that's just the whole 24 hours right there. Legend of Grimrock 2.
I gotta practice. My map making was at its peak during the time we streamed it, but it's probably fallen a little.
It's good. Like if we get like a $5 donation, it's like, all right, you have to make the map, but like with one eye closed. And now it's like, oh, $20. All right, blind map making.
Yeah, like $100 donation as we do it with like a ink quill, like Harry Potter style, on parchment. It's funny. My wife like found those, like, because we got that grid paper. Like we went out and got it. She's like, what are these?
Like she found parchment.
No. So we had like that. I guess it's like graphing paper or something. Like,
scrap paper.
Yeah, scrap paper.
And she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, the truth is gonna be real weird."
That's
but
4-2 of Grimrock, obviously.
Yeah. Can't you tell?
I could lie to you because that's probably a lot cooler sounding than what the truth is.
Yeah. But yeah, we should do that sometime. We should finish all those, like, we should get back into the double streams. Those were a lot of fun. But yeah, should we move on? That's what we've been playing.
I was about to say, let us. So yeah, that's what we've been playing, making maps and whatnot. Let's go over to our next segment where we talk about the news in our cynical spin. Hold on, I got a bumper. No, I don't got a bumper. I just got a nice fancy. There we go. Apologies, I didn't make one again for the next segment, so it's just gonna go blank for segment 3. That's on me.
I'm basically like a 2 frames per second slideshow. So
Garrett's just like. So there's a shit ton of news around the Switch. One of them is that there's a new Switch coming, and it's smaller and it's lighter. It's called the Switch Lite. It's about $100 less. It's portable. It's got the Joy-Cons are attached. It doesn't connect to a dock, so you can't play it on your TV. The battery lasts just a little bit longer. There's no HD rumble. comes in 3 colors as of now: yellow, gray, and turquoise. And I think there's also going to be a Pokemon bundle that shows the 2 legendary Pokemon in the new Pokemon game that's coming out. What are the names? Shield Dog and Sword Dog. So that's the first of the Switches that's coming out. But before we start talking about the next Switch, that's kind of not a new Switch, but sort of a new Switch, I wanted to sort of see what you guys think about this new Switch Lite that's coming out. Do you think it's necessary? Who's it for? Are you guys going to get one? Is this just Nintendo being Nintendo? Discuss.
Can I get some clarification? So there'll be absolutely no ability to connect to a TV?
None whatsoever. It is a completely portable Switch. So it's not really a Switch. It is exactly just it's a portable. So there's no switching between console and handheld. It's all handheld.
That's cool and all, but like, would it kill a guy to get an HDMI port? Like, just there? That was my one real complaint about the Switch. Just like, everybody's like, oh, I forgot my dock. Like, well, guess can't play the Switch. Like, you can watch me play it over my shoulder or something, but
wait, you guys don't want to like play on the rooftop like in the commercial? I've got a kickstand.
Yeah.
Dude,
hold on, let me.
There was a meme when that commercial first came out, and it was like, like some girl shows up to a rooftop with the Switch, and like everyone cheers, and the meme was just her showing up and a picture of a guy like looking confused and being like, "Oh my god, Karen bought the Switch again! Like, what the hell?"
It's like, for fuck's sake, Karen.
So I actually have a somewhat different opinion. And Tim, what are you drinking?
I didn't state my opinion.
Sorry, I inferred.
Oh, yeah, he
Continue,
did.
Tim.
He
just
said an HDMI cable. Like, if that was the extent of his opinion, I'm like, Tim, I'm upset. I expected you to have the most cynical of opinions.
I thought that was, I could infer from there that you weren't happy.
No, I'm not unhappy. I mean, $100 off is a
Whiskey.
sizable amount. I can't argue with that, and there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that purely use the Switch as a handheld console. So I will say, from that aspect, it makes sense. I don't, as a person who owns the Switch, there's absolutely no reason to get this, I don't think. The smaller size, slightly improved battery life, things like that. Like, it's not enough to make me go, wow, like I need a handheld and a regular Switch. If you're somebody who's coming into it and you don't have any you're not the type of person who wants to convert things between handheld and on the TV, then I see it as a great thing for you. But just put an HDMI cable on it. What the hell?
It's like, it's totally fine. It's a handheld. It's great. I love it. If you want a handheld, great. But make it HDMI.
I can plug my phone into the TV. Why can't I plug my Switch?
I mean, fair. I mean, I was going to say something because when this news came out of like the Switch Portable, the Switch Lite, whatever they want to call it. By the way, they totally missed like their opportunity. Like, they just shot their shot and completely missed. They should have called this the Light Switch. I'm just saying.
Oh man, that is way better. Although I was thinking the colors should be Switch Lite Lime, Switch Lite Orange, and Switch Lite Lemon Tea. Because that would work very well for me.
Switch Light Matcha.
Yeah.
You want to go that route.
Well, I was naming Bud Light Lime flavors, or Bud Light flavors rather. However,
trying to make an audible facepalm, but
yeah.
Okay.
So
Garrett, what's your take on this?
Tim, I somewhat agree. I somewhat disagree. I do think the HDMI thing was like a weird play from Nintendo. That's just Nintendo being Nintendo, where they're like, oh, why would we do that? Like, because I don't know, something's wrong with this.
Because we do what the fuck we want.
Yeah, and that does seem to be the one thing that's really lacking from this, because I do think that obviously this is somewhat targeted at the Japanese market, which loves handhelds, and somewhat targeted towards kids and children, where it's $100 cheaper. It's a little more portable.
Yep.
I don't think it's targeted for people who already own the Switch, really. I know some people probably will pick it up, but I don't think you'll see a ton of overlap there, at least not in the US market. But I do understand, like, it would just make sense to have that HDMI capability on it. However, I do think that would kind of enrage current Switch users because people who kind of paid for the full model and have the full model are like, well, what the hell? Like, like why can't I do that? It's kind of weird that it doesn't just work in the Switch dock too. That seems weird. Especially for charging purposes, because I've had a lot of issues with charging my Switch when it's not on the dock.
Really?
Not so much. How do I explain it? Whenever the battery's drained, it seems to not like charging on anything but the dock. Like, so when it's completely out of battery, I literally have to like set it on the dock for like 10 minutes before I can charge it with anything else. And I have a Switch compatible, travel brick thing. So that's my issue with it. Otherwise, I think it's a smart business move. I think it's going to move a lot of units, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to talk about some other stuff coming up as far as the Joy-Cons.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely like the other stuff because we got a comment from Chris where he's talking about the bullshit looking for the model numbers. I'm like, we're going to get to that in a second because I have words to say about that as well. Because
the non-detachable Joy-Cons still like it's weird because it's
at that point they're not really Joy-Cons. They're just like
they're just there. I mean, the D-pad's kind of cool. But that's typical Nintendo, like giving up on their gimmick a little bit. We saw it with the 3DS. You had 3D everything, and then no games had it. You saw it kind of with the Wii. Everything was wiggly waggly, and then only Just Dance had it, which is still coming out for the Wii.
Well, and that's the thing. Like with the Switch Lite, they've removed the IR sensors. They've removed the rumble, like whatever it was, like the battery pack that's in the Joy-Con. So any games that relied on that gimmick, so like 1-2 Switch for the 5 people that play 1-2 Switch, the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. I don't know how many more games Nintendo plans on using that functionality with the Joy-Cons. You're going to have to make sure that if you only own a Switch Lite, oh wait, is this game going to be compatible? Again, I don't think it's going to be a huge population of games that you're going to have that issue with, but then that's going to be like one extra thing that you're going to have to think about if you get a Switch Lite for like your kid and you're like, oh, let's get this game. Wait, let's double check to make sure that it's compatible with Switch Lite.
Yeah, and it just seems weird to me that they didn't I understand reducing the cost, make Joy-Cons that are Switch Lite compatible that don't have those features, but still let them swap in and out with regular Joy-Cons. Like that seems like a weird play to me because you're kind of nixing the market of people buying controller hardware.
But Nintendo's, and that's sort of like the thing that's always baffled me about Nintendo because, like you mentioned before, with the DS. They've been fracturing their market with the DS and the DS Lite and the 3DS and the 3D XS, XL and 3D whatever. Like there's so many different SKUs for the DS, and somehow people still come back and keep buying Nintendo shit. And it's still like the Nintendo people are like, no, Nintendo rocks. And I'm like, why? Like, am I the crazy one here who's not like, am I not seeing something?
Yeah, and it just seems weird because I feel like you could. I don't know what the cost of these things are, but you could still let the Joy-Cons detach, couldn't you? I don't know. I guess the frame size is different.
Well, the Joy-Cons are like $70 or $80.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like you could have Switch Lite Joy-Cons that don't have the IR.
You're talking about making just Joy-Cons that don't have the shit, the regular, and have them instead of being like 70, be like $40 or something.
Yeah, and but then allow users to then get the new ones because to me it's like, well, now Wii Sports is that you're not going to get a Wii Sports title, which I've kind of been shocked that they haven't made a Switch Sports title yet. But this clearly points to them not making one because if half your player base can't play it, it's weird.
I think the only irony I see is that it's like the last remaining thing that could make it a Switch as opposed to just any other handheld.
Yeah,
it's like now it doesn't do the TV, it doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons. Those are like the two kind of hallmarks of the Switch.
Yeah, but it's still going to sell like hotcakes. So
it absolutely is, especially because they have that Pokemon bundle. People are going to be like, I need a Switch with Zamazenta and whatever the other dog is.
Dude,
I need that
whipped cream Pokemon. This is classic Nintendo. Like somehow they make the right business decision, but it's just confusing. like why it works.
It's like they present it, and like any rational person would look at them and say, "What the fuck?" And just it works out in the end.
Yeah,
and,
Japanese
and
market, dude. People just want handhelds.
And then Miyamoto and everyone are like, "See, I told you."
But should we move to the second part of our news, because we kind of
yeah. So on the backhand of that, the title of sort of this intro article was "The Switches are coming." To go along with that theme, we're getting another Switch, but it's not a Switch Lite and it's not a Switch XL. It's a regular size Switch, so pretty much dimensions more or less unchanged from the base Switch, but it's going to have a much improved battery life. Current Switch goes anywhere from like, I think the rating is 2.5 to like 6 hours. This new Switch, which is rumored to come out sometime in August, is when they're going to start offering it, is clocking in at like 6 to I think like 9 hours of battery time, which is a huge improvement off the current Switch. The one thing though is it looks identical to the existing Switch. So unless you're like a gamer or like very well connected in the video game scene and know what to look for, like if you're a grandparent who wants to buy the new Switch for your grandkid and you're like, "Oh, I bought my grandkid a Switch and here's the Switch I bought for you," and the like grandkid who's a little shitty kid is like, "This isn't the 6-hour Switch that I wanted. This wasn't the old Switch." Meh. That was me being a shitty kid.
I mean,
just doing an impression. I thought that was just your voice.
Oh well, thanks, Tim. I don't know what to say to that. I thought that was a very good impression.
I understood it. I got it.
I'm sorry.
No, so yeah, like two. There's
brutal. Damn.
Yeah, I was like, "You thought your word." All right. Anyway, back to the news. What the fuck? That's all I gotta say. They're identical SKUs. They're like, I looked at the article that I put on the show notes is a CNET article that basically says if you want to buy the new Switch with the better battery life, here's what you got to look for. Obviously, the packaging is slightly different from the original Switch to the battery improved Switch, which I'm going to call Switch Plus for the purposes of this segment. It's like an all red box compared to the original Switch. And I think they also mentioned, look at the barcode. One barcode starts with like 1, 2, 3, for example, and the other one is going to start with like 3, 4, 5. It's not those numbers, but just to illustrate the difference, it's like that granular where it's like, look at the barcode, look at the box. But again, like how many people are going to have the wherewithal when they're buying shit like this to be like, wait, hold on. Is this the OG Switch box or the Switch Plus box? I don't know.
Yeah, this is a weird move.
It's God damn it, Nintendo! Why?
And I like, I don't know. This one's really weird because the whole rumor was there was going to be like an updated Switch, better graphics, better performance, or something like that. That isn't necessarily like not a thing anymore. But that made sense to me because that's like, okay, you can convince people who don't have Switches to buy them. Guys who have an Xbox, have a PlayStation, have a PC. Like, oh, I can run The Witcher 3 at 60 frames on the Switch. Like, that'd be cool to travel around with. This is just really weird, like, because it's just sort of a big fuck you to people who've already bought it. Like, it's just like, this one's better, sorry. But this is a weird move to me. I don't quite get it. Because you made a portable version, and then this one has better battery life. Like, so is it? Who's this for? Like,
exactly. It's like you make the announcement that you have the the super portable version. Okay, great. It's no longer dockable. It's no longer a Switch. It's a portable. Got it. And then like a month later, hey, by the way, we all of a sudden figured out how to increase your battery life by 50%. Go Nintendo. Everyone loves Nintendo.
And it's like, is anyone going to buy this that has a Switch already? Do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if there's one thing that Nintendo has known for years and they exploit to the max, it's that fans of Nintendo will buy whatever the fuck Nintendo puts out, regardless of how irrational it is.
Yeah, it just seems like a weird move. I don't know what do you think, Tim? Like, I
don't
can't
think
see.
I don't think the primary market is people already on the Switch. I think it's just going forward. It's like, okay, people who don't have Switches, this is this is your option now. It's a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe honestly, like the stock
you know,
was low, and they were
I don't
just
know.
like, hey, we might as well. Because even like Chris said in chat, like he, and now I'm reading his joke.
I read that too.
But he says like, battery technology hasn't like jumped, like it's not from that, like, so they had the ability to do this before, you would think. So this one seems like a weird move. I don't quite get it. Who knows?
I mean, the only real people that are going to benefit from this is anyone who hasn't bought a Switch up until now for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh great, now I can get a legit Switch that I can play portable or on, console on my TV, and I get more battery life if I choose to keep it portable.
And I assume, Nintendo has guys who have researched this and they're like, hey, this is enough to get people to buy it, maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That seems weird to me. I feel like this isn't convincing enough to get people who don't own Switches to buy it, but I'm not those Nintendo research dudes. Who knows? I honestly wonder if it's like a supply thing, which like they basically changed to a different battery supplier or something, and it was just like, here, you can have this for the same price. Like it just seems like a really weird move.
It really is. I mean, especially because aside from improved power efficiency or whatever change they made to make the charge last longer, this is the same Switch. It's not like you said, you're getting the Witcher at 60 frames a second. You're not getting any sort of graphical improvements. You're not getting a more powerful processor. You're not getting anything but a longer lasting charge.
Yeah.
So
should we move? I mean, Nintendo, we're back on.
I was about to say, I'm like,
things.
Nintendo's taking it in the chin today. Keeping with our what the fuck Nintendo theme, they're getting sued in the state of Washington over their Joy-Con drift. Now, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but the Switch that I bought my wife about 2.5 years ago, however many years ago that I bought it for one of our anniversaries, that was her Switch. And then I bought a Switch for myself. And then she started experiencing Joy-Con drift in one of her Switches, in the left Joy-Con, which is particularly the Joy-Con that experiences these issues. And now her issues are my issues. So now I'm experiencing Joy-Con drift. So the law firm of Chimicles?
Sure.
Chimicles, Shorts, Kreiner, and Donaldson
Assassin's Creed
Smith.
Odyssey.
I'm like looking at these names and I'm like, now, like I read them when I put them in the notes.
Sure.
And now that I'm reading them out loud, I'm realizing, okay, Chimicles, Kreiner, Donaldson Smith filed a lawsuit against Nintendo, basically saying, hey, you guys knew that you were putting components into your Joy-Cons that were not very good, that would eventually have issues. And people are, having issues with them. Surprise, surprise. So they're filing a lawsuit against Nintendo. And if you go to their website, they have a section there where you can put your name and information. And they're actually trying to make this a class action lawsuit against Nintendo. Neither Nintendo nor, Sophocles and Schmidt and whatever are responding for comment. I took this from CNET, so I think this article was from either yesterday or today, as of time of recording, so the 22nd or the 21st of July. They haven't responded to comments, so nothing from the law firm or Nintendo, but yeah, Nintendo getting sued for Joy-Con drift.
This is... I haven't actually experienced it, but I honestly don't use the Joy-Cons that much. I got a Pro controller pretty early, but I know it's like a widespread issue, and I know it's weird. It's always like the left Joy-Con, which seems very strange to me that it's a specific one. But Nintendo, again, they love this kind of shit. Like the PSP had nice joysticks on it. Nintendo, like, why can't you just give nice joysticks? The 3DS had that stupid little, old school laptop nipple instead of like a true thing. And then they had the new 3DS had like a proper joystick, even though it wasn't. It was like a weird slider thing. So I don't know. Like the Nintendo's always been weird with their hardware. And some controllers are amazing and some aren't. I do think there's like there's a warranty, I think like a 1-year warranty or something. I'm not 100% on that, but essentially you have to send your system in. People have been saying they come back and there's still an issue. So this is just unfortunate. Like I assume Nintendo knew what they were doing, and I can't think but them being like, oh, people will just buy new ones because they're so, modular. So is it 100% malicious? I don't know, but I can only assume. Tim, have you had any Joy-Con drift stuff going on, or?
No. I mean, I haven't been grinding my Switch, I guess. I don't. As of late, I haven't been playing it much, but I haven't noticed any real drift. I can't. I think the whole thing. It's kind of who really knows, like, because the whole court case is predicated on like, did Nintendo know that there was an issue?
They knew. They knew.
I mean,
problem solved.
Yes.
Ace Attorney.
They knew. Guilty.
I mean, the Switch has been out for like what, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Like
3-ish, I think.
And now it's like obviously, yeah. Like if this is a widespread issue, but there's no way you can predict necessarily that these issues are going to pop up until, like a couple years after it comes out. I'm curious as to see what the like if this lawsuit is successful, what we the consumers will get out of it. If it's just one of those class action lawsuits where they're like, hey, you can file here and get $2, and
it's about to say you're gonna get like 5 cents back.
Then whatever.
A+.
If they do some sort of like recall or something, obviously they wouldn't do a recall, but something in that vein where it's just like, okay, like we are forced to apologize and give you some new Joy-Cons or something. That would be awesome, but they're not going to do that.
Oh no.
But I don't know. Like what can you do really?
Yeah.
Like there have been Nintendo may be like a pattern offender when it comes to this type of thing, but they're not the only ones who have released some crappy controllers in the past.
And to give Nintendo credit, they do kind of push the innovation on these things a little bit. Because I know like the Wiimotes, basically they had to put out those like squishy things for them because people were just hurling them into their TVs and stuff. And like that's an unexpected like.
Did we know that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Dude, let me tell. So the one that happened to me, college buddy of mine, he had a Nintendo Switch, and he didn't have those jelly controller protector shits. And I didn't put the like wrist strap around my wrist when we were playing. And I forget, I think I was like playing bowling, and I'm like, I just fling that fucking nunchuck like up into the sky, and it hit the roof of our apartment when we were in college, and our we had in the common area in our apartment, and it just like my heart like stopped because I'm like, oh shit, that thing's broken. It fell down. It was in one piece. I'm like, okay, put it back. Not playing anymore. Nothing happened. I'm out.
I definitely, my ceiling in Croton got some scratches in it from tennis. My favorite thing about that was the in WarioWare Smooth Moves, when it had the mini game where it was like, you had to hold your remote out straight, and then it just says drop it, and it's just like a pure like, did you put that strap on test? And like some people were like, oh, like, and you just have to make the sacrifice if you didn't, because you can't fail the mini game.
I was like, oh fuck, it's for the mini game.
Yeah. So I to go back, I do think it's maybe not 100% malicious. It's hard to push innovation and not, come across things like this. Because, again, it's especially weird that it's only the left Joy-Con. Like, that seems weird to me.
Yeah, it's almost I've not heard or seen anything about any issues whatsoever with the right Joy-Con. It's always been the left Joy-Con.
Yeah,
so much so that they sell, like, left Joy-Con only.
And that to me seems like it's not 100% malicious because, like, They like, how is that? Like, that seems weirder than just they were like, no, use cheap parts in it, So yeah, I don't know. Nintendo, a lot going on this week.
Part of there was a part of me that wanted to put my name on that class action lawsuit thing to see if they were going to get class action status. So when I got home today, I asked my wife, "When did you start experiencing Joy-Con drift?" And then, like, in the back of my head, I was like, yo, Nintendo's probably going to have your name down when they get this, because like they're going to get this information to see who's part of the lawsuit, and they're probably going to like blacklist you from all their shit. And I'm like, never mind, I don't want it.
No, I highly doubt that.
Yo, you don't want to fuck with Nintendo.
That is true. You never know. They got guys. You think Reggie retired?
Like,
no.
I was about to say,
he's
like, you think Reggie's done? So he's gonna be like, who's this Alberto guy?
Kicks the door down and just beats
Let me
you
pay
to
him
death.
a visit. And he's gonna like, he's like, I'm high off coke, motherfucker. Boom, punch to the face, done. Joy-Con, motherfucker.
Tim, did you want to move on? We're gonna switch from Nintendo.
Sure, shift gears a little bit.
From Reggie homicidal coke head, yeah, let's shift gears.
So this is it's kind of an old story that we haven't talked about, but there's an update to it. I thought it was pretty interesting. So to sum it up, there's a studio named Red Candle Games. They're a Taiwanese game studio. They're, relatively indie. In February, they released a game called Devotion. It was met with positive reviews. Tons of people were streaming it, playing it. Generally seemed like a really good game. 2 days later, players discovered a hidden message in the game. I think it was on like a talisman or something that translated to Xi Jinping. Excuse my translation or my pronunciation. Winnie the Pooh, which if you don't know, it's kind of a hot button issue in China. There's an internet meme that was going around for a while, and still I guess is present, but Chinese government's not a fan. I think it's like a comparison picture between him and Winnie the Pooh, and people are bent out of shape about it. But subsequently, Chinese players bombed the game on Steam. There's some debate as to whether that was due to them being offended as a nation, or whether they were like, this is going to get, this game removed from Steam. We don't like that. We don't want this controversy. Please, like, let's just let us play your game. But regardless, 2 days later, it was immediately patched out, but the damage was done. The publisher distanced themselves from the company. They, were getting all sorts of bad press, all sorts of bad review bombs, and 2 days later, Red Candle Games just completely removed the game from Steam. And that's kind of where it sat for a while. They were pretty silent on the issue for several months, and then in early July, the publisher had their publishing license completely removed, and just kind of, or by the Chinese government, which kind of illustrates the gravity of the situation. And last week, Red Candle Games released a statement essentially just apologizing for everything, saying they never meant to make a big political statement involved with this. They just used it as a temporary asset, and they had plans to switch it out for a more, a completely different message. And it was purely a project management issue. What do you guys think? I mean, this kind of is this is delving into politics and, international politics, and I don't think it's not really a sensitive issue here in the States, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing where something like this can completely tear down a studio with a very promising game because of some tiny little Easter egg hidden within the game.
My issue with this, like Easter egg aside, is really in that link between like a Chinese company and the Chinese government monitoring things like this. We know the Chinese government is a hell of a lot more strict than the U.S. government is. The U.S. government is, for the most part, laissez-faire when it comes to market transactions. But the Chinese government takes a little bit more of a Big Brother's watching kind of approach. And when you showed me this article, like immediately my mind jumped to Tencent Games, because Tencent has such like an ownership stake in a number of different studios. Some of them like small mobile studios, and and they also have some smaller stakes in like other larger game studios. I just did like a quick pull here to see exactly what they're plugged into, and for the most part, just like off the surface, they wholly or partially own companies like Grinding Gear Games, which they own 80% of, Miniclip, which is I guess like a mobile game studio, Riot Games, which we know of. They own Riot Games flat out 100%. Glue Mobile, Epic Games, they have a 40% stake in. They have a small 5% stake in Activision Blizzard. So that's where I'm like, like, is this going to be a problem with those games if they decide to do something that, you know, the Chinese government finds offensive, and then through the ownership that Tencent Games has, is that going to dictate, you know, the narrative that these games have in the future? Again, in some of these cases, Tencent only has a small stake, so maybe their voting power might not be that great, but the fear is always going to be there.
That's actually so. And if you look at the news, China's got a lot going on right now, which let's not get too political. But I do think that you are right with this kind of Tencent thing. There was actually something in the news, the Top Gun 2 trailer. People noticed his jacket. They changed the symbol for the flag of Japan and the I think the flag for Taiwan to just like nonsense symbols. And apparently Tencent has a big stake in, I don't know if that's MGM or whatever company that is. So clearly there's something going on here where Chinese companies and the Chinese government is starting to influence a lot of media that we see over in the US. Obviously this is I believe a Taiwanese studio, so that's, I mean, there's crazy backstory there politics wise, which again, let's not go crazy on. But this is the kind of thing, like you can see that the market in China doesn't always mesh well with, again, the States, like you were saying, Berto, especially with Steam. Like, so this was actually released on Steam. Steam is currently working with a big Chinese gaming company to make like a Chinese version of Steam. And basically Steam has this weird thing where like a lot of things basically have to be curated by the Chinese government before they can be released in China. Following this, I did read that basically like all Steam games were like, they stopped any acceptance of any Steam games like immediately. So it's weird. It's kind of like a crash between, you know, Chinese politics and the Western market. And we've seen this before in games like World of Warcraft. They changed that for China, where they took out certain skeletons and things like that, which I guess that, you know, Chinese censorship doesn't like those things. You know, I don't know. We censor things that come from Japan too. So it's a weird thing. It sucks like that their game got completely taken out, because I assume it's like one developer at one point made it as a joke and they forgot about it. You know, I obviously they're not trying to make some crazy political statement in a game like that, I don't think. Although apparently there was some other stuff hidden in there. There was like a translation that could be translated a certain way to refer to mainlanders or something like that, which again, Chinese gamers found pretty offensive and were review bombing about. So I don't know, it's tough because I hate to see it happen, but it's just, you know, it's a different political climate. So, you know, what can you do? It's hard to not be hypocritical and say like, oh no, they should just release every game over there, when, you know, we censor stuff and we block stuff over here. So I think it's cool that the Chinese market is becoming bigger for video games. I think it's cool that there's more access to video games. But I think you're just going to constantly run into things like this. Although it made me really interested in the game. Like, it was like a survival horror first person game that I had never heard of.
That you will probably never be able to play.
Most likely will not be able to play, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just kind of a shame, you know? I don't know.
I think it's kind of, there's a weird line, like, that's, you have to debate whether you want to draw or not when it comes to censorship. I don't want to take out like a high ground and be like, wow, China's like messed up because of that specifically. Like, yeah, they are, but that's not the point that I'm trying to make. I think
I don't want to make that point, but you know, they are.
In this aspect, yes, they're very wrong about this, but I think it's kind of like just a bigger issue of like when it comes to censorship in artistic forms. And you know, if a platform or something doesn't want to have a game because they disagree with the politics that it has or the content in it or something like that, I can to some degree understand it. But I think there should be more freedom for developers to release the content that they want to release. It shouldn't be bound by like things like this, where, I mean, this is a weird extreme example, but I think it's kind of an opening to discuss this on a larger forum of just like, what do developers have to do if they have a certain vision for a game that doesn't necessarily line up with the ideas or concepts of, whether it be the mass media or the government or anything like that. I think developers shouldn't have to compromise their vision, and if it means that it's going to sell less or it's not going to do well in a certain area or in a certain demographic, then that should be a risk that they're going to have to weigh whether they want to take or not. But I think we can all agree that this type of extreme censorship is just hurting not only the developers but just us as consumers as well, because we don't get to play this game.
Yeah.
So look up, some doofus play it on YouTube.
It's tough because at that point you basically just have to release it for free. And that might come with its own consequences, to be honest. Like that might be a big risk for developers to take. But it's tough because Steam is a massive company, because we talked about the Steam censorship thing where they started pruning their games and avoiding hatred-filled games and certain pornographic games and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I do find it tough because where do you draw the line? Like, what if a game is just slightly taboo or slightly an issue?
Yeah, or if it's, to be more specific, or if there's like racist characters in the game and they're not necessarily portrayed as like, this is our opinion. Like what's that? There's all sorts of gray areas.
It's tough, yeah, because the big thing with Sony right now is they're censoring a lot of nudity and sexuality in games, and that's, I know the internet always goes nuts for that because God forbid we don't see naked women. But it's
so hard to find.
It's a tough it's a tough line to cross because you have to draw a line somewhere, and what do you I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of that. What was that Zelda controversy with there's some potentially Islamic chant or something in one of the tracks? Remember that?
In Ocarina of Time,
I was about to say in Ocarina in the Fire Temple.
In the Fire Temple, there was a Islamic chant, so that got removed in one version, and also there was the Islamic crescent on the mirror shield, which got removed as well. And that's like a weird what's the issue there? I don't see an issue, but all it takes is a few people get up in arms about it.
I mean, I'm not going to stand here and stand for that specific two references to Islam culture as being this was integral to the experience of Ocarina of Time. But I could see it slightly, in a very tiny way, being this is the creator's vision. Just because it might offend some people who probably weren't going to play the game anyway, why should they have to compromise that? And it's just it's a whole can of worms.
People are always going to get offended by everything, unfortunately.
Probably too much to talk about in this one.
It's weird because, it's hard to take the stance, but sometimes I just wish video games just didn't have to be political. Why do we have to?
Well, I mean,
can't they just be fun?
In this case, was it did we know if the developer intended for it to be a Winnie the Pooh kind of thing, to be I'm going to stick it to President Xi?
We don't know.
No.
They're claiming that it was an oversight and it was just a temporary thing that they forgot about, and it was a project management issue.
Yeah.
And this is months after the fact, and nobody is ever really going to know.
Right.
But
if I had to guess, I would just think it was a dev made a joke. And they just
that happens all the time. So,
but
it sucks that they're being punished to this degree, and we are probably never going to be able to play this game.
Hopefully it leaks on the internet or something, because I was actually interested in it once I read about it. But who knows? Unfortunately, this kind of stuff happens, especially again, just read the news. China's not doing the greatest censorship wise, so not that we're doing too great either. Go Europe, I guess. I don't know. Move to Canada.
Go Yves Guillemot.
This stuff sucks everywhere. So yeah, enough politics.
I was about to say, no more politics, no more Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
China's probably got us on their radar right now. It's fine.
Reggie's already coming to kick us.
Between Reggie and China, we're fucked.
Yeah. So yeah, let's we'll move to segment 3. We're good with that.
Let's move to segment 3. I don't have a nice little fancy thing for segment 3, so I'm just gonna take off the what you're playing.
No worries. So for segment 3 this week, and it was actually it kind of came to us out of playing / talking about Super Mario Maker 2. But segment 3, our topic is going to be mods and dev tools in gaming, which I'm just going to kind of open up with like the current state of development tools in games and mods seems kind of wild because it's definitely evolved in my lifetime. The big ones at the moment, obviously Super Mario Maker 2, which is essentially a full dev kit. Like, here, you make the games.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which we can talk about that a little bit. But also the auto chess kind of phenomenon, which has kind of, become the new spotlight from the Battle Royale phenomenon, both of which have their origins in mods. So let's start with Mario Maker 2, because I just personally want to say, like, playing the game, it's kind of cool, because we've just been hating on Nintendo a lot. But this almost seems like Nintendo is sort of embracing that ROM hack kind of community without having to be like, hey, you guys can make these things. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is the closest we're going to get to Nintendo being like, hey, ROM hacks are cool. I don't know how you guys feel about that, because essentially, at its core, this to me is completely inspired from, the Kaizo levels and the ROM hacks of Super Mario World 3 and so on.
In that sense, I agree with you. It's totally inspired by the Kaizo, like the Mario Kaizo sort of levels and all those sort of hacks and, cobbled together sort of scenarios. But to say that this is Nintendo, in their own way, starting to be like, oh yeah, ROM hacks are cool. I'm like, you guys have shut down websites for ROM hacks.
Well, I think it's the closest we'll get to Nintendo being like, you know what, you guys can make Mario stuff, because they recently pulled down.
We'll give Mario, you tools to make Mario.
There was like the Mario Battle Royale where it was 100 Marios playing at the same time. I don't know if you guys played that. That recently got shut down.
I heard about it just before it got shut down.
Oh, I played it a little bit.
How was it?
I was bad at it. It was kind of tough. It was just hard to see with all those dudes running around.
So many Marios running around.
Yeah, there's like a Flappy Bird one of that now.
I saw the Flappy Bird one too. I counted to play that.
Yeah. But like, so it's weird because mods have certainly evolved. The mods of yesteryear were, essentially like, hey, boot up Oblivion, and you can download a mod that puts like, different weapons in the game or different classes and stuff. And then you have mods becoming full-fledged genres, basically.
Oh, absolutely.
So what are your guys' opinions on mods? I don't think any of us dislike them, but what do you think the upsides are, and are there any downsides to the modding community? What do you think?
I think the only possible downside you can look at is these weird kind of like the auto chess situation that's going on right now, where it's like, who is the owner and who's like, I mean, it doesn't really affect us as consumers, but it's like, I just think it's kind of an interesting thing where Dota itself, it's like you got this Warcraft 3 mod that gets super popular, everybody loves it, and it just sits for a while with just building up this giant player base, and then suddenly like 2 companies out of nowhere just like, we're taking this formula and just making our own game. And then a couple years later, Valve is just like, okay, we're gonna we're gonna go this route, and we're gonna buy the name and do all this stuff and make it an official sequel. And now this is like the other one. Now you have these several different competing games that are all kind of the same, obviously with little differences. But it's just kind of an interesting kind of the thing we're talking about before with Nintendo, where it's like fracturing the player base. And it's a debate as to whether the competition's good or not. But I think the biggest tragedy is the people who make the mod to begin with, and that oftentimes you're not going to be compensated. I don't know the details of Ice Frog, the creator of Dota, and where exactly he is right now, because of the fact that he made one of the most popular mods, subsequently games of all time. But I doubt he really is receiving the compensation that he deserved for making that. And I'm sure it's probably going to be the same with AutoChess.
It is interesting because I'm pretty sure he's a full-time Valve employee. I think he still does the balancing and stuff a lot.
Okay.
So, and also like Ginsu, who was another big guy, and he went on to work at Riot Games for League of Legends and stuff. And I think another guy went to Heroes of Newerth actually. And that's what's weird is
bad luck there.
Well, Heroes of Newerth was big for a little bit.
No, it was great, but it's not around.
But that's what's weird is we've kind of seen mods go through this, like baby teenage adolescent phase, and now it's like the heyday of mods is basically if you make the right mod, companies are gonna make it. Like they're just gonna make their version of it. And it's interesting because I don't, to the company's benefit, I don't think that these guys would necessarily be successful without having the modding capability available to them. Like I don't know if Ice Frog would have made Dota without having the Warcraft 3, map editor. I don't know how you guys feel about that because I know also Defense of the Ancients goes way back to StarCraft, Aeon of Strife or whatever it was called. Like other guys were doing it. Ice Frog really took the formula and tried to balance it. I think he was the first guy to really do that part of it. And it's weird because like I don't know how I feel either way. I will say I think one of the biggest and coolest parts of this nowadays is that good game ideas basically take off and you're able to play them in a much better way. Because generally when you're playing mods, there's like weird workarounds, playing, Dota 2 back or Dota 1 back in the day, like people could just leave games. There was no penalty. Like there was no real matchmaking. Playing, I guess DayZ or whatever in Arma 3 like was a really janky mess, which then, spawned PUBG eventually,
right.
Which was still a janky mess. But I think that was the original guy who did that.
Janky mess that people love.
Yeah, so I don't know, Berta, do you have any experience like because I know you're relatively new to PC gaming. This has generally like been a PC thing.
Yeah, no, previous. I was about to say like my experience with mods is purely academic in the sense that like I've only ever read about them. Only having recently really come into PC gaming. I've never like really, got like installed a mod for any game or played any kind of these mods. I've only ever read about them and experienced them really from the outside looking in. So I don't have that firsthand knowledge. Again, my knowledge is only from what I've read, and it's like, oh, hey, here's this cool mod of, an Arma mod or the DayZ Arma mod or PUBG's like mod of whatever. And like, as an outside observer, my takes on all of that is initially it's like, this is really cool that people have the tools available to them where they can sit down and actually say, you know what, I'm going to like invest the time and effort and try and make a thing that I think will make the game that I like better. Or maybe it's just that they want something that they want to do for fun. But I'd like to think that the reason why they're doing this is because they see a deficiency of some kind in the existing game, whether it be like a small deficiency or something in the meta or whatever kind of deficiency that they're looking at. And they're like, I think that I have something that might improve this slightly. And then if it takes off, it's like, dope. This is like the best case scenario for something like this. It becomes like the next big thing. Or if it's like a small thing where people are like, oh, check this out. It's like a small mod where it makes the balancing or the matchmaking a little bit better. But it's like the quintessential way for fans to get in on the action, to be like, let me see how I can make the thing that I love better.
Well, I think that to sum up kind of what you're saying is that the coolest thing ever about mods is the fact that you could basically take someone with like a good idea and the right work ethic, and they can make something that maybe they weren't able to make before. And I think you see stuff like, I know there was that big Skyrim mod that's like a whole separate campaign. But like you have guys who basically make like a full RPG game just using Skyrim and modding that. And I think at its core, that's the cool part of mods. It has that sort of like the little guy, living the dream because he can launch off of something else. Now, I do think another really good benefit of mods, and this is mostly PC. I mean, we'll see how it evolves on console eventually. Is the little kind of fixes and adjustments that can just make games run way better. Recently to me, DS Fix in Dark Souls was a guy who basically fixed the frame rate issues on PC, which apparently a Bandai Namco couldn't do. Like, he was one dude and it took him like 16 hours and he like, here's a great frame rate. Stalker has so many mods for it, but that game is literally unplayable without like a few mods. Like, the way the guns handle and stuff is so garbage. The Stalker Complete mod, I believe it was called, like you installed that and suddenly the game's good. So the little fixable mods I think are a huge benefit. The negative to them being they're kind of hard to get a little bit. You got to find them out. You have to install them. Sometimes you have to do janky stuff in the files. The controversy that spawned out of that was really Bethesda, I think, with the paid mods. I don't know if I think we've talked about that in, probably over a year ago or something, but that was like the height of the modding controversy, which was Bethesda was like, hey, what if we charge for some of these things? And then that, like, essentially we can make money, and then, developers who do these little mods can make money. Which didn't go over well. I know the horse armor for Oblivion is like the famous, I think it was like $5 or $10 for armor on a horse, which is hilarious in retrospect because people pay that for, horse armor nowadays in like Dota and League of Legends and stuff. It
was ahead of its time.
It was just too far ahead of its time.
It's why the Dreamcast failed.
And so I want to ask you guys specifically, what do you think about that model? Do you think that model is okay nowadays in the current market? Or I know Steam has like the workshop thing where it's like, essentially people can make items, the community votes on them, and then they get a percentage cut of all of the items sold. What do you guys think about that kind of stuff?
I think the Steam model is the closest to an effective monetization model for that type of thing, where it's like, yeah, it comes down to community votes. This is something that people actually want. I have heard stories of that being gamed, essentially. Like, there are vote bots that you can use to essentially like just push your stuff to the top and use for nefarious purposes, just as advertising space or something like that. When Valve goes, obviously this piece of crap thing is not a real submission. It's just it's just named like buyskins.com. So like, we'll remove that, but it can be a real shame. But it's just kind of it's a weird gray area that is always going to be fraught with issues. I think the best content is going to be created when money isn't really like involved at all, when it's just people trying to make interesting and creative stuff for a game that they love. That's why all the great Warcraft 3 stuff came out, all the great Half-Life stuff came out, all that just content in a game. That's always going to have been the best situation for it, but as time goes on, that's not going to cut it anymore, and people aren't going to want to put that time in.
That's the thing is nowadays, essentially, if you make something like that, every company's going to jump on it.
Right. So it's a catch-22 situation. So I can't say what the ideal situation is in the modern gaming market for it. But I do think that the Steam Workshop has the closest to what an accurate or what a good kind of system for it is.
It's sort of like an Etsy for mods kind of a thing almost. Yeah. I agree. I think the Steam Workshop's okay, but it's weird because I think there are some negative to mods and the biggest one being like cheat engines and things like that. And I don't know if that really counts in the category, but if you ever played any games on what was it called? Windows Live? What was it called? I forget. It's what Games Dark Souls Games for Windows. Is that what it was called?
Whatever. Games for Windows Live.
Yeah, sure. But I remember playing Dark Souls on that, and it was like miserable. Just every other person you would fight would just be cheating, and like obviously like hacks and stuff like that are always an issue. And I think it sucks because the answer to that is like always online kind of stuff where mods just basically you can't do generally. As far as like, I know Diablo 3, there was a big issue where they didn't have offline play, so there was no mods allowed, that kind of stuff. Which will kind of lead me to say like, So the other side of this is the developer tools, which we talked about in Mario a little bit, which I think are always amazing. I can't see you guys disagreeing with that. Like when, and I think Blizzard is one of the biggest for this with the map editors. Now you got Super Mario. I know there's been multiplayer online games before. Halo Forge is one I can think of.
Yeah, with like one of the first ones I can think of where you got like a first real taste of any kind of dev tools was when you had like the Forge available to you with Halo. And that was like, holy crap, I could make such awesome stuff. I mean, not me personally because I suck at that shit.
Yeah.
But like talented people could make such awesome shit that I could then consume.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I think that the Chi engines are going to be there regardless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always going to be people who want that. There's always going to be a weird underbelly market for it. But yeah, the more power to the creatives out there that love the game, the better. I know, I mean, my personal biggest experience with that type of stuff is obviously Counter-Strike, which in itself is a Half-Life mod. That was the birth of it. But you know, even now, there's while there isn't, you know, like Counter-Strike is what it is now. But aside from the skin market, which is its own kind of like beast, but that involves the community voting thing where, you know, people essentially create these skin designs, and then if they get voted up, then they can get sold on the Steam marketplace or show up in loot boxes. But there's all sorts of maps and stuff that you can just easily download. Super helpful maps for all sorts of reasons, whether it just be, you know, to play on or to practice your aim or things like
surf
that.
Maps.
Yep, surf maps.
And what were those parkour maps, or were you
the KZ maps?
KZ, yeah, you climb the mountain in Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
we used to play those forever.
Yeah, and it's essentially these games within the games, and it's really cool just to see the things that people who love the games can make with you know, when it's got enough of a reach. There's always going to be somewhere out there who's going to think of something that the devs never would have thought of.
I forgot about Gary's mod, which I have actually personally never really got into, but that was huge on Steam. Yeah. For like people would do RP sessions and stuff in there. I think Arma has mods like that too, where they're, you know, cops and robbers kind of RP sessions and stuff. But so here's like the doom and gloom scenario, I guess here.
Why you gotta yuck my yum?
Capitalism, baby. Do you think in the future, because of this new sort of like, okay, you got auto chess and now everybody has that and it's a race to build it. You had the battle royale and that came out of mods and it's a big race to build it. Do you think that companies are going to release dev kits in these sort of open environments where like basically you have a talent pool that's creating ideas that might not necessarily be at the end of the day in your game, where it's like you're giving them the tools to build it, but they might go to another company or another company might snatch up the idea. Do you think that we'll see anything like that where dev kits will stop coming out for that kind of reason? Or do you think we'll see even more dev kits come out because companies are looking for the next kind of big idea? And it seems to be coming more and more often from these sort of like little mods and dev kits and stuff where it's you just have a guy with the right idea who makes something and the community embraces it and then it gets built upon.
I don't think it's going to be the fact, and I don't think it's going to get to the point where you're going to see it become more of a like widespread thing. I think the companies that have always made their dev kits available to the community are still going to do so. Just because they have that kind of relationship and that kind of tie with their community. But I don't think that this is going to lead to something where like every developer is going to be like, and by the way, here's like a dev kit or even like a dev kit light for you to make, you know, cool stuff that you could then submit to us. I especially now, like I'm thinking about the issue that Ubisoft had with like the music thing that Joseph Gordon-Levitt has like his company that's like crowdsourcing music from creators to include in Watch Dogs. Like I know that was a whole thing where they're essentially getting paid for spec work where if their tracks get submitted, they'll maybe get paid, but not really. So that's sort of like creating like this whole cloud of user submitted content that's going to like a big publisher. So I don't know that it's gonna with stuff like that being sort of like the forefront. I don't know that we're gonna see big publishers making any dev kits available sort of widespread. Aside from publishers who have done so as part of their history already.
Tim, what do you think? You think doom and gloom, better future, or you think kind of like Berto, right in the middle? We got some ideas in chat.
I think it's going to be like a kind of both worlds situation where it's like there's going to be more dev kits and stuff, but there's probably going to be more regulations in place where they're going to be like, hey, like just so you know, if you make this, we're going to steal that.
Well, that's like by using this dev kit, you've assigned away your ability to monetize anything because we can monetize it on your behalf.
And that's it's funny because that's essentially Mario Maker is that kind of concept. It's like, okay, you guys make the content, but it's under this platform. And I think you'll see more of that style a little bit, where it's like things like I can imagine Nintendo doing something like a Mario Kart. The next Mario Kart is like a Mario Kart Maker or something like that. I could definitely see certain companies building on that. So I think you will see a little more, but I think you'll see it in these controlled environments where it's kind of playing towards the game itself and not so much like, hey, take a Mario Kart and you can play with the physics, you can play with this. It's more just like kind of building the game, things for the game already versus that kind of outward thing. I'm trying to check out chat. Viking Rage is saying he thinks crowdsourcing is just too easy to come up with new ideas, and companies don't want to gamble the money on those ideas. So that's an interesting idea because that sounds right. Essentially, you'll see like until these games hit big numbers, companies don't really jump on them.
Well, yeah, and that's like what I mean. I was like being facetious about it, saying that like my game ideas are shit. But for the most part, like 95% of the population of people who do this, they're not very gifted. I'm sorry to break everyone's burst everyone's bubble. They're probably not as good at like game development as they'd like to think. And it really only is like that 5% that people are like, hey, you know what? There's something to this mod, or there's something to this like hack that this guy did that is, worth playing. And then that's what like people start gravitating towards. So maybe there is some merit into releasing the dev kits to the world because not everyone is like going to create the next, PUBG.
And what I think is interesting nowadays is you have such competition in the market for this, where, Dota or Valve who picked up on Dota and basically crushed it. They're kind of losing the auto chess battle to Team Fortress
or Team Fight Tactics. Yeah,
I was going to say Team Fortress too.
I was like Team Fortress. I'm like, no, it's TFT.
Team Fortress is a Half-Life mod, by the way. So like Valve has always been
mods.
Valve has been the winner in the mod category, but now you got this competition going on where I imagine like games nowadays that release dead kits are going to have crazy things in place to be like, okay, this game's gaining traction. Like, let's talk to this guy and let's see if we can make something. Chris in chat, he kind of mentioned, he was like, companies want the IP, and he thinks basically they should buy it from those dudes with credit for them, and it's kind of a win-win for both, which we've kind of seen, I would say, with Ice Frog and Dota, with Ginsu and League of Legends, things like that. The only issue to that nowadays is that now you got this competition where maybe that, like, unless you win the, Twitch stream battle and the popularity battle, you might not be doing so well. And again, Valve is the big upset here, where they put out a card game, did awful, which was the Hearthstone competitor. And everybody's been putting out card games, and Hearthstone won. And now you got the auto chess, Valve's losing that. So we'll see what the next game is. But it's interesting to see now, because there's competition in place, that companies are much more willing to take, not necessarily gamble, but to jump on the popularity faster. So I think you'll see this stuff come out quicker. And it'll be interesting to see, like, with the new Warcraft, if that has the full map editor, like what kind of games and genres might come out of that, because people have been doing crazy stuff with that.
Aside from dedicated like mods or like full-on dev kits, have any of you had any experiences with game creation systems? So like things like Dreams or Little Big Planet, which are games that are essentially just like here's a big sandbox for you to play and create shit.
Well, that, I mean, at its core, essentially, Super Mario Maker 2 is similar to that.
Well, yeah, I guess about to like Super Mario Maker 2 is, or even the first Mario Maker is kind of like that. I guess it's actually, I guess
Dreams
it is sort of the same
Dreams
thing.
is nuts. I don't know if you've seen the stuff coming out of there.
I've seen some of this. I'm like some of the shit that people have recreated in Dreams. I'm like, yo, hire this person right now because, damn. I'd be like, hey, I made a circle, and they're like, I've made like, a Moebius strip,
dude,
and there's a marble that like is endless.
People like recreated like Spider-Man 2 in that, like that thing's going crazy. And it's a weird concept because I do think you'll see more of those kind of level editor type things coming out. It seems like Nintendo's starting to embrace it a lot. I know Link's Awakening is going to have like a dungeon creator kind of a mode, which they might build upon. We'll see.
I hope so, because I think from what they showed, it's essentially just like lifting and like placing tiles. It was like, here's what one like room looks like, and then you create like that's their dungeon editor.
Yeah.
But I hope they expand on that. I think that this is their proof of concept of that to see how well it works.
And we will see, because in the future you might see something where Nintendo's like, here, you build it. You can make a whole Zelda overworld. I don't know if that's the right game for it exactly, because something like Mario where you have quick levels and you can run through them. I mean, I guess Zelda, you could just do dungeons and like, hey, you make a dungeon and then, you play somebody else's dungeon and stuff like that. So I think you'll see more of those, definitely. Yeah. And I think those are just generally fun. Like those are nice because the controversy really isn't there. It's just like, hey, you could just play more of the same game but made by other people without, the monetization and the capitalization of different companies and stuff like that.
I mean, for now, until they start monetizing and capitalizing on that.
It's funny because the Nintendo ROM hack 2D kind of thing is like just such a weird concept that like I don't think other companies are like going to jump on that. But like other companies should be looking at like, hey, why don't we make a Mario Kart maker just for, where it's like a different style. And again, PlayStation Little Big Planet was that concept. I don't think it was quite as fleshed out as Mario Maker, or quite as tight gameplay, but I loved Little Big Planet back in the day. So it'll be interesting going forward to see how this ends up and stuff. Now, I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to touch on, which was like, do you think consoles will adopt these kind of more modish ideas at all? Or do you think they're just going to be getting whatever game comes out afterwards?
I think that for the most part, it's going to remain like the modding stuff is going to remain exclusively or almost exclusively to PC. I mean, up until now, you've only ever seen on the console Mario Maker recently, Little Big Planet, Dreams. I can't think of, outside of those are the ones that mainly jump to my head as far as consoles that have had any kind of, game creation mechanics. I don't think that I'm sorry, not the PC. I don't think consoles are built for that. I don't think that they're designed for making levels. So I think it's going to be, for the most part, exclusively or almost exclusively to PC.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, because it's just the console downloading and everything. Yeah, it's so much more work to make it work. Although again, you got Halo, the Forge editor was.
That's right.
That's like the big one, basically.
Editor, yeah.
X Pro Skater 2.
Build your own skate park.
Yeah.
There's games like Far Cry that used to put out map editors and stuff, and it was like, what, for Far Cry? Like, it's kind of weird. Oh, that is true. Viking Rage. Al said Fallout 4 actually had mods on console. I forgot about that. That was part of Bethesda's kind of like, I think they were looking to monetize it, and they actually made it where a few of their games on console had access to it.
Is that where they're like, send us your mods, we won't give you any money for it?
Well, that's going to be the issue at the end of the day, no matter what. All this content creation stuff is like, how do we make money off it? But how can we make money off of it by not giving you as much money? Yeah. See, this was something I was thinking of too. It's like Google Stadia coming and stuff. And Chris mentioned in chat, he basically said like over-the-air games and streaming games, and now Microsoft's ability to kind of hook up to the PC with these games. He's saying like it could be more possible to see stuff like this happen. And I don't know, like something like Google Stadia, that seems like it's all server side. So
Yeah.
that's going to have to be like a definitely a dev kit thing and not like, you can get access to those files. But it will be interesting to see if you can get more into the, like, because imagine a Forge editor but you're using it on PC, like the ability to, edit files and edit images and add your own graphics and things like that. That could be interesting to see if
I can imagine it. I don't have the patience for it, but if somebody else does, I will play your level.
Yeah, no, I from my Mario Maker experience today where I made not a real level.
Although I will say this, I do want to create a Mario Maker level and like actually really try, and I will put it out there for anyone to try, and they can tell me how much it really sucks.
Yeah. I kind of want to put out the split screen Synics episode 30 level and see how fast it gets booed into oblivion.
Oh, you should totally do it and see like how many thumbs down it gets, and then you can be like,
all you do is run right and jump a couple times. Like, yeah, well, sorry.
I mean, that's more work than you do than these fucking autoplay levels. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Autoplay levels are the fucking worst.
Yeah, autoplays are dumb. But I like speedrun levels where you like have to bounce on shells, you know what I mean?
No, I like those, but like the levels where it's like, hey, it's very nice to look at. I can appreciate the scenery that you're making me walk through, but if you just make me walk on like a platform and that's all I have to do, your level is shit. I'm sorry.
Fair. It'll be interesting to see moving forward how this kind of comes into play. I have one, like a final topic question that's quick, but any other thoughts on mods or dev tools or map makers, map editors that you guys have?
No, I'm just gonna. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
My Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 level is really
good. That's fair.
Damn it! If you could dig it out, bring it out for Extra Life. We'll play your Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. We'll play your level.
So on air. Here's my kind of lightning question, and I do want to toss to chat. Like it seems like Al and Chris are kind of saying like essentially the monetary gamble for companies is an interesting one for them to pick because like think of like something like Uber. It's like now we're heading towards this weird mod like sharing economy where it's like Valve doesn't give a shit what you make so long as they get some money out of it, but let the community decide what's good. And I think that's a pretty fair model, and I think it's a decent model for everyone involved because like the good stuff's generally going to shine through. You do have issues with things like Mario Maker, though, where levels make it to the most voted because they complete themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's like, hey, this level was fun. What did you do? I walked down a platform.
Yeah. But so here's my lightning question to wrap up. You have to pick between level editor, dev kit, or true mods. Go. The other two no longer available.
What's the context like for
Is
myself
it like
or
for no for gaming in the future?
Pick one and the other two are gone, or just like which one do you want? Oh, okay. So now it's not so easy now because it's like pick one and get rid of the other two. Shit.
Dev kits, I guess.
You're picking dev. You're not going true mods, Tim? Damn.
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
Okay, fair. Berto, what do you think?
Me personally, because I just don't have the aptitude for it, and if it was me making that decision, it would have to be like the easiest version of the three, which would be, I agree with you, a level editor. I'm like, I feel like that's basic enough for me to be like, I can make something out of this. Fuck that other stuff. I don't have time to learn it.
Yeah, chat, throw your opinions in there too. I'll read them out. I'm gonna. This is weird. We got a split decision. I'm going true mods with it. And my argument for that is things like Stalker Complete. Things like Dark Souls DS fix are things that you cannot get out of a true dev kit. You can't fix a game's like inherent flaws without somebody really digging into the code and doing it. And I do think things like
that's an assumption.
Well, how dare you, Tim? How dare you?
You assume too much, sir.
I do think things like essentially like level creators and true dev kits can still be done with true mods. It's just the main issue is you're going to have a lot less of a talent base attempting it. So the big negative of that choice is that essentially the amount of content generated is going to be far less. So you might not get as good stuff, unfortunately. But I don't know. I just the ability to truly fix a game, I think, kind of wins. What do we got? We got Chris said level creator, kind of like a Mario Maker 2. That's a vote for Berto. Yeah, and Al said true mods. He said someone out there will put the time to put something good in.
See, but that's like my argument against things like dev kits and true mods is that the larger population of people don't have that A, ability, or B, time to put in something like that. So if you got to keep one and get rid of the other two, you're probably going to get a lot more. Maybe like
it's weird because like essentially
this is why I'm right, because it's the middle ground.
Whoa, Tim, you got no votes in chat. Just saying.
I was about to say, I'm like, level editor's the middle ground.
Dev kit's in the middle. You get a bigger pool than you would just from pure custom mods, but you get more customizability than you would just out of a level editor. So
you're assuming people have way more ability. You're giving people way more credit than they deserve.
I mean, essentially, the line graph is basically ease of creation and talent pool. Is a complete, what do you call it? An inverse relationship? I forget math. But as one goes down, the other goes up. Basically,
that is an inverse relationship. Congratulations,
nailed
Garrett.
it. Nailed
Hell
it.
Hell yeah.
No degree, baby. No degree.
You don't need no degree. I don't need no degree.
So
I'll fix that shit.
That's cool that you guys were able to argue and conclude that I'm right. That's
all right. I'll give it to Tim. Tim's right because he has the coolest opinion because no one voted for it.
Yeah,
it's the hot topic choice, if you will. What? No, that's a terrible analogy. But
no, whoa, that's totally no.
Well, Tim picked it before it was cool. I guess that's what I was going for. I don't know.
That means he's a hipster. Exactly, Mike. Exactly. Chat is all about. See, they're like
they're pouncing on you, Tim. They're pouncing.
Chat's like, that's right. He was into dev kits before dev kits were cool.
It's the curse of being right all the time. A lot of haters.
Oh damn! Respect him. Good fire back, dude. I can't even handle that. So yeah, if you're listening at home, please reach out to us on Instagram or something. Let us know what you think. I think this is gonna wrap it up for Mod and Dev Tools.
Yeah, let us know why level editors are the best.
Yeah, who is the best looking is the real question. Well, that's just Berto, unfortunately.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? So yeah, that's gonna be it for episode.
Making me blush
30,
over here.
The big 3-0. Sorry. About...
damn, 30 episodes. Wow.
Yeah, is that a milestone? I don't know.
Do we not have a cake or something?
30 flirty, and we're still losing money.
Dirty.
We're still losing like $10 a month doing this. So. Let's go. So yeah, that's gonna be it. Please get back at us. Let us know what you think on Instagram or Twitter, whatever. We are Split Screen Cynics. Take out the E's, put an S on Synics. SplitScreenCynics.com is our website. Check us out on You the Gamers. We're doing stuff with that. We're also hosted on there. And you can see me on twitch.tv/GarrettGetsInto, although my internet's borked at the moment. So not too much streaming coming out of me too soon. Hopefully I get it fixed. Berto, where can we find you at?
You can find me at Albie the One and Only, pretty much on all social media. I know I only got Twitter and Instagram icons down there. Actually, that's probably the only two that I have. Albie the One and Only. I'm pretty sure all social media, like on MySpace and whatnot, if they still exist, is some stupid shit that I thought was cool back when I was in high school. Yeah, get me out there. And then, like Garrett mentioned, Split Screen Cynics, pretty much all over the place. Check out You the Gamers. We're right there. Those dudes are awesome. They host us. We love them. They love us.
Yeah, I wrote a couple articles on there, so see what beer
they're
pairings
super
I do with video games.
They're super awesome articles. I read those and I'm like, oh god. I was at work when I read those and I'm like, I could totally go for a beer right now.
Oh man, I drank a double negative. It was like 95 out. And Bloodborne was a weird comeback, but I enjoyed it. Tim, first of all, remind us what game we're all going to be playing for the next episode, which is going to be the Game Club game, and spell it. Sorry,
it's spelled AMID space evil. You can spell evil.
Nice.
So wait, medieval?
No, don't. Medieval.
Yes.
A medieval.
A medieval. Okay.
And you can email me at betty@spaghetti.com. You can find me on Instagram at Don't Pee in the Shower. The toilet is right there. And you can battle me on Gen 1 Digimon.
Yo, is that wait? When you say Gen 1 Digimon, you talking about like the ones that you connect like Gigapet style?
If you know, then you know.
Yeah, if you don't know, you can't afford it, dude. That's
wait. If I know that I know, and if I know I can't afford it, that I'm confused now.
Don't worry about it.
Oh God.
You're not
one Digimoners. Don't ask this question.
Yeah, it's a mod. That's a true community mod, all right? Oh my God. Al got the reference to Beer Fest that I made, and I'm happy. Tim's mad. So that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for participating in
Tim
chat.
was so angry he left.
Tim's gone. He's no longer a split screen cynic. Yeah, enjoy whatever. Enjoy your time. Play a medieval. We're gonna be doing that next time. Play along with us and get at us for the game club. Tim's back and he's sorry. That's gonna be it for us. Keep on gaming. Bye bye.
Peace, dudes.
Bye.
Tim, I'm sorry. But you are a hipster. That's fair.
I can't argue with that.
Are we still streaming? We're still streaming.
No,
I took my shirt off.
It should be off. It should be off.
Terms of service.
It told me it's not. Oh wait, let me
My
hit stop.
foot.
Oh God, Tim, no.
Oh no!
Everyone-
We're getting that permaban.
Everyone, throw your cat over your head. Really.